right, what the hell is going on, man? There just isn't even a few hours of like little to no news. It feels like we're just climbing this ladder of stress and anxiety, and then we're found in a situation like this where we're talking about the leader of Hamas is kaput. He's done. He's dead, which is probably going to spark mass outrage by all the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protests, and you're going to see an increase in something. Likely violence, I don't know, but something probably. And then you got Jagmeet Singh is going, what are you doing, Pierre? You need to look at the security clearance so that you can have all the information like I do, which seems to be nothing because he can't talk about it. But he's saying it doesn't muzzle you. No way in any shape, form, or any variation does it restrict you from talking about what's in the reports. But we don't know what's in the reports, Jagmeet, and you haven't told us. So there's that. And then you have India as an entirety taking aim at Justin Trudeau and shitting on Canada. And I don't blame them. Not like Canadian people, not our land, but our government. And that's because Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government has accused India of murdering a Indian de facto person who was listed as a terrorist, which why and how did that person even come to Canada? But nonetheless, we got a lot to look at today. Oh yeah, and then you have 4 Liberal MPs that have jumped ship, and I made a video about that earlier. But then you got next week to look forward to, because the 20 to 30 MPs that are all saying, hey, we don't think Trudeau should run as the leader of the Liberals. Well, those people are actually stepping forward in a caucus meeting, and then they're going to be taking it public. So yeah, lots going on. Every day is getting more and more crazy. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. We got a good mix of different stories in this video, so I hope you stick around for the full thing. If you're looking specifically for India taking aim at Canada or Justin Trudeau, that'd be towards the end of the video. But for those that want to stick around for the full thing, let's just get into it. First up, you got Pierre Poilievre, who's taking shots right out the gate at Justin Trudeau. Canada isn't the country we remember anymore after 9 years of Justin Trudeau. Doubling housing costs and bringing crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder to our streets, not worth the cost. You have the artists at the top and the art at the bottom. And I mean, that is something that you can pretty much see in every town, every city across Canada. No matter how big your population, no matter how small your population, there's just an increase in drugs, crime, homelessness, and like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And then speaking of not making any sense, it took a little bit of time for Trudeau to finally list the Samadoun, Solomon, whatever the hell they're called, the terrorist group in Vancouver that burned the flags and were calling for the death of Canada. Yeah, how they're listed as a terrorist entity. Let's take a look at the updated report of that situation.
A group behind several protests at the Vancouver Art Gallery, where the October 7th attacks on Israel were praised, is now listed as a terrorist entity in Canada and the U.S. The new designation comes months after the group's co-founder was arrested by Vancouver police for possible hate speech. CTV's Shannon Patterson reports.
Long live October 7th!
These statements at a Vancouver Art Gallery rally in April got Charlotte Cates arrested and investigated for possible hate speech. And her appearances on Iranian state television months later likely drew more attention from the Canadian and U.S. governments. Her organization, Samadoun, has just been listed as a terrorist entity in both countries.
It's vindication for the hard work that so many across the Jewish community and other communities have done to identify this group for the negative actions that they've taken against society as a whole. I think that this is an important time both for American and Canadian societies in pushing back against this kind of extremist rhetoric.
One expert believes it's not the extremist rhetoric that led to Samadoun being listed as a terrorist entity.
The U.S. Treasury Department has done an investigation on the group, and they believe that it's really a sham charity that's actually funding and sending funds to militant groups to attack Israel.
The terrorist designation means any person or business that has ties to Samadoun could find themselves in the crosshairs of both governments.
Other groups that may have participated with them in terms of organizing protests or sending monies or having joint rallies or events, you're now completely in denied territory.
Charlotte Cates has not yet been charged for her comments at that rally.
Whoa.
We are waiting on the edge of our seats to see those come through.
As for her organization and its new designation,
I think Samidoun is going to be out of business completely. What will likely happen is a rebranding of the group. So obviously these networks exist, and if they've been successful in receiving funds, they will probably quickly dry up and reappear very soon.
Shannon.
So this is really important to cover because we're talking about foreign interference from, other governments, other entities, and Justin Trudeau just testified on this, right? And here you go. You have listed as a Canadian charity, Samidoun, like actually listed as a freaking Canadian charity. They don't pay taxes, they get money, and they send it to Hamas. That's freaking mental. And now we have a full confirmation that they did not get listed as a terrorist organization because of the radical rhetoric of calling for the death of Canada, the death of Israel, the death of America, and burning the Canadian flag out in public. That's not why they got listed as a terrorist organization. To be honest, that's what I thought they were listed as a terrorist organization for, in conjunction with what was just mentioned, the fact that they're a charity, the fact that they have ties to Hamas. But no, they weren't listed as a terrorist organization. That wasn't even a thought for the rhetoric that they have. It's because of their ties to Hamas, which obviously, that's still a good enough reason, like a well beyond good enough reason to be listed as a terrorist entity in Canada. But still pretty concerning because, again, they're just going to disassemble Samidoun and start something new, not Samidoun, wink, wink, right? And that's probably what they're going to be. And they're going to be listed as a freaking terrorist organization, as a charity, until they get, disassembled again, being listed as a terrorist organization. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Kind of crazy. It seems like the system here in Canada is increasingly more and more flawed. And I just don't know what to make of it. It doesn't make any sense at all. But I'd love to know your thoughts and comments down below in the comments. And then you got Justin Trudeau saying, today marks the anniversary of legalizing cannabis across Canada, which is something that he, in his election, 9 years ago or whatever it was, that he said he would do. And of course, 6 years ago today, we changed an outdated law, took profits away from criminals, and made our communities safer. And I mean, that's kind of the only promise he's really lived up to. And I know there's some people out there that have voted for Justin Trudeau because of that. And then they've since got buyer's remorse. And it feels like just North America in general. Like, this is one of the things that I believe Kamala Harris is now last minute campaigning on, is she plans on legalizing the same thing in America. And I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below on that. Is that good enough? Is that one promise good enough to have somebody in power to run either Canada or America? Let me know your thoughts down below. And then you have Jagmeet Singh saying, Pierre Poilievre must put our country before his party. Pierre Poilievre's refusal to seek security clearance continues to put Canadians and Canadian democracy at risk. Pierre, get your security clearance. And so Jagmeet, as we all know, is the leader of the NDP. The old Jagmeet, the previous leader of the NDP, is named Tom Mulcair. Now, he's not in politics as a politician. He's an analyst who gets contracted or subcontracted or works for CTV. And he's appeared many, many, many times on CTV. And he has said that he does not agree that Pierre Poilievre should get his security clearance. He stands with Pierre's decision to not get the security clearance. And for those that haven't seen that video, let's just take a quick little refresher right here.
I agree completely with Poilievre's decision not to take the bait. They're trying to distract and say, oh, look at this guy Poilievre. He doesn't even want to know the names of the people. To go back to the 50s in the United States, it's McCarthyism. It's the enemy within. We've got these people and they don't even want to know about it. This is simply not worthy of Canadian politics. I've never seen anything so low. I agree completely with Poilievre's decision.
And so there you go. I agree completely with Pierre Poilievre's decision. That's the older version of Jagmeet, Tom Mulcair. So it's kind of crazy that you have party leaders, and this is what I talked about in my video earlier, or my previous video, was that you have these party leaders that we all everyone, you're running in politics, you should want the best for Canada, and they all have their different approaches, whether it's fed by delusion, such as, the Green Party, the Liberals, and the NDP, or whether it's fed by common sense, the Conservatives. They all have their own take on things, but to have such different opinions on the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, getting or not getting his security clearance, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand how Jagmeet now is saying get it, but old version of Jagmeet, Tom Mulcair, is saying don't get it. I rarely agree with Tom. I think that Tom is a hit or miss. He's freaking bizarre, and I do not think that he is good in politics, but his analysis and his analysis in this particular moment seems to be accurate, at least with what my beliefs are. And let me know down in the comments if they align with your beliefs as well. And then you have Caryma, who's out in the wild and is being almost attacked or intimidated, it seems like, by an adult male, which, I mean, we don't even know what that is these days, but let's take a look at this here.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good, good. Look at your face, pal.
You don't have to go so close to him. We have our faces out.
Oh,
We're all good.
that's fine. That's fine. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day, brother.
Thank you for the friendly
Have a
introduction.
good day. Yeah. I don't understand you people. God.
Buddy, we don't understand you either. I'll just put it plain and simple. We do not understand you either. And speaking of not understanding, Justin Trudeau does not understand his own party. You got 4 more MPs that have said, that's it, tout fini. Nous sommes tout fini. They are leaving Gonzo. And this is adding on to the previous MPs that have said they are not running in politics anymore. They're not doing another election. They don't want to be reelected. They're done because of, partisan games, because of toxicity. But everyone has their own opinion on it. But nonetheless, these people right here on the screen, they're throwing in the towel, mostly because of their attachment to Justin Trudeau. Some people have taken a different approach and they've crossed the floor to independent, which is pretty wild. But for those that missed this video earlier, let's just take a little brief summary.
Joining me now is political analyst Laurie Turnbull. And Laurie, since the beginning of this latest sitting of Parliament, it seems like there's no dull day in Ottawa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, that's definitely true. There are no dull moments. It just seems like hit after hit keeps coming. This isn't even a sitting week, which is the kind of weird part about it, right? Like usually these weeks are kind of quiet.
This is the off week.
Very much from caucus. They're home in their ridings, but this has been super eventful in that while the Prime Minister has been away last week and now into this week, there's been organizing around people talking about his future, caucus members apparently signing a secret document to create some solidarity around a push for him to leave. And so it should be really interesting on Monday when they all come back.
Hey, you mentioned hit after hit for the Prime Minister. Ultimately, what are the implications for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? Of course, not just him, but the federal Liberals have been trailing big time in the polling, now losing 4 more ministers.
Right. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily surprising on one hand when people who have been in office for 10 years say, I don't want to do this anymore. I've come to the end of my rope and I'm not going to reoffer. Right. They're not necessarily coming out and saying, look, I don't want to run with Justin Trudeau and I have a problem with the leader. They're not saying that. They're saying we're not going to continue, which sure, we'll kind of give him one more thing to deal with, right? Even if it's not about him, there's still this sense that, the party is down in the polls. His personal popularity is extremely problematic. And so then you add to it the fact that core members of his team, people who are extremely loyal to him in cabinet, are deciding not to come back. And this is on top of, former Minister O'Regan, former Minister Rodriguez, both of whom left, saying for their own reasons, for other reasons, not because of the leader, but still it creates this kind of additional thing for Trudeau to respond to in a sense that things are not looking great for him and for his party.
And so now the next thing we're watching for is the shuffling of the cabinet. How important could this be for the Prime Minister in terms of setting himself and setting the cabinet up for a next election, which could really be any time, but for the Liberals, likely in the spring, maybe, of course, potentially for the fall. But with the pressure that has been on Ottawa from the opposition parties, they could be ready any time for an election.
Sure. I mean, the Liberals are in a minority government situation. They used to have a deal with the NDP that basically inoculated them from concerns around whether they'd lose confidence in the House, but now that's been removed. And so they are.
And we're also waiting until the end of October. The Bloc Québécois has given Trudeau, hey, if we don't get what we want by October 29th, we will call an election. And we're very, very close to that deadline. And it does not seem, based off of previous demeanors, previous conversations, previous debates, that they are going to actually get what they want, because the Liberals are saying, we can't just, we're the government. We're in charge. We are the captain. And the Bloc is going, I am the captain now. And it's kind of a tug of war between ego and power. And the Liberals just don't want to give in. And that's going to cost them. I'm not saying they should give in. I'm saying, ha, you are going down with the ship. And this is phenomenal.
They are more vulnerable now than they were before. That said, all three parties would have to cooperate on the opposition side in order to defeat the government. And that, isn't necessarily going to happen anytime soon. They all have to have the reasons for wanting to do it. And the government itself might decide, Trudeau might decide, especially given the fact that he's got these additional problems. He's got members of caucus organizing against him. He's got cabinet ministers saying they're not going to come back. He may decide at some point that he'd rather take his chances and go to election and just deal with it rather than try to keep this particular train on the track, because it just seems harder and harder to do that. In terms of a cabinet shuffle, he tried to do that in 2023 when he had a massive shuffle in terms of bringing people in, getting people out, shuffling the deck chairs of the people who remained, and it didn't really help him. It didn't really change anything in terms of his electoral fortunes. It seems like, if Sean Casey is right, what constituents are saying is we don't want to vote for Trudeau. And so if that's the case, that a cabinet shuffle is not going to help him unless it involves him.
All right. Well, we'll have to see next week. We're expecting more MPs to potentially confront the Prime Minister as well. So a lot more political drama ahead in Ottawa. As we said off the top, never a dull moment, particularly since this latest sitting in the House of Commons. Laurie Turnbull, political analyst, always appreciate your time.
Yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see how this does play out. But no matter which way you try to look at it, it's just not looking good for Justin Trudeau. And then you got this video here where Trudeau and Singh are trying to tag team Pierre and say, hey, you need to get your security clearance. So let's just take a quick refresher at this here.
The leader of the Conservative Party to not get those classified briefings means that nobody in his party, not him, and nobody in a position of power knows the names of these individuals and can take appropriate action.
All right, let's bring in Lydia Miljan, political analyst here with the University of Windsor. And Lydia, we want to be clear that Pierre Poilievre does have a position on this. He has said, look, if I get that kind of clearance, it means that anything I hear will be secret and I'm not allowed to talk about it. And I don't like that. It sort of handcuffs me from being able to be transparent. What's your take on what's going on here? Because it's very convoluted and frankly quite confusing.
It is confusing because, we hear testimony, from leaders of CSIS saying there are no traitors in Parliament. So there's that argument. And then we have the Prime Minister, very much like Joe McCarthy, saying, I have a list of names, but I'm not going to show you the names. And then Poilievre saying, well, show them all. He's basically saying, a pox in all your houses. If there are people that are compromised, show them all. I don't want to be hamstrung by the secrecy that I have to sign off on if I have this briefing. So it's a bit of a stalemate, but it's also very much politics, and you're seeing the partisans go after each other quite strongly. Certainly, Mr. Trudeau wanted to use this opportunity to have a full frontal attack against Poilievre to basically shake away some of his supporters, trying to suggest that he's hiding something or he doesn't want to act appropriately. Meanwhile, Poilievre's using it as an opportunity to shoot back at the Prime Minister, saying, well, if there are traitors amongst us, let's hear who they all are, not just singling out the Conservatives. And we did hear a testimony yesterday that Trudeau did did admit that there were some Liberals on that list as well.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
And it is kind of crazy because Justin Trudeau is quite literally admitting that the Liberals have committed treason, yet he's not releasing any of the names. He's not elaborating to what extent the treason has occurred. Like, this is crazy. This is absolute craziness. It's ludicrous. Well, you don't need a security clearance. This should be public information. If you got MPs out there, like federal employees that are committing treason, absolutely, this should be public information, I think. Maybe I could be wrong, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this.
That's very important. It's not just Conservatives. There are Liberals as well. And you also rightly point out that the Liberals and the NDP are taking this as an opportunity politically to try and attack Pierre Poilievre. And we've seen a lot of this, Lydia, in recent months. They know the Conservatives are doing very well in the polls. They're angry about that. They can't seem to understand why. And so every opportunity they get, they go after Poilievre.
Yeah, so I think what they're trying to do is frame this as a character issue, frame this as, is this person the right person to lead? Can he, and they want to basically chip away at that. They want to say, you know, he's not ready to be prime minister because he's unwilling to make the hard decisions, or he's unwilling to make sure that all of his candidates are perfectly able and willing to stand for office. Again, it falls a little bit short when we know that there are parliamentarians suspected. And again, there's no real evidence. So it's not like you get the list and then you can say, that's it, I'm going to oust them from caucus, because that would be a public way of showing it. So, as the Prime Minister mentioned yesterday, there are tools that a leader can use, basically not signing the nomination papers or not letting them be part of a shadow cabinet. But apart from that, he didn't say that they could kick him out of the caucus or do anything else, given the fact that there isn't, that they have to have due process. So I think that this is where it's not going to work out that well for Mr. Trudeau or Mr. Singh making these attacks on Poilievre, because Poilievre's response has simply been, let's shine a light on all of it. And those leaders aren't willing to go that far.
And that's kind of the best way to tell who is extremely genuine with this and who isn't. And like, I think people are just really, really fed up with these, like only Pierre can see it and then nothing can happen. I think people want full transparency. And I don't know if it would be a breach of national security, if it would endanger the lives of Canadians like Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh are claiming. But obviously, Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition and soon to be next Prime Minister of Canada, is okay with the names being released. He's confident that there is nothing that would incriminate him or the Conservative Party or any of his MPs, or if there is, he doesn't care and he wants it public knowledge. He doesn't want to know if there are any MPs and then have to, within his cabinet, and then have to take some sort of backdoor, behind the curtains action and then, slowly roll that person out of the cabinet so that the Canadian population doesn't know. He wants everybody to be aware for full transparency's sake. And I mean, I don't even know how this is an argument. I think that that's the best way to do it. Full transparency. Government officials, their number one priority is to this country, Canada. And if there's any Conservative MPs that are not prioritizing Canada and they are committing a form of treason vis-a-vis foreign interference, or Liberals or NDP or Green or anyone, independent, you name it, I think that it's within our rights to know who that is so that we can make informed decisions when it comes time to vote. Because no one is, I mean, the fact that these people, that there's actual members that are still, elected, that are still running and they've committed some form of treason, right? That no, they should be gone. They should be fired. They should be fired. Absolutely. And they should be legal repercussions that are taken in order to combat that. But that's just my opinion. And again, I'd love to know yours. And now we're going to take a look at what's going on with India. So India media is not happy with Justin Trudeau. Here we go.
Trudeau's allegations have united India, whether it's political parties or social media or commentators. But over in Canada, it's quite the opposite. Justin Trudeau is facing a lot of flack. Some Canadian media outlets are questioning his strategy. Even his own party men want him to quit. Look at the National Post. It's an English newspaper based in Toronto. Listen to what their op-ed says. I'm quoting, Trudeau has allowed diaspora politics to unduly influence foreign policy, pledging that Sikh values are Canadian values at events, and failing to crack down on suspected Khalistani extremists living in Canada. Quite an indictment there. It's exactly what the government of India has been saying, vote bank politics and shielding extremists. And it's not just one report. Here's another Canadian journalist. He says Trudeau has failed to give evidence that he's stuck in the trust me bro phase. Trust me bro phase, it's a new social media term. People use it when someone makes outlandish claims, and that too baseless ones. Now, Trudeau may not have any evidence.
Okay, my biggest question when it comes to this is, where the hell is our Canadian media? You're seeing this by other YouTubers, myself included, that are talking about this. You're seeing this a little bit by, Rebel News and True North. Why isn't CTV? Why isn't CBC? Why aren't they going in front of the cameras just like India mainstream media and talking about what the hell is going on in the corruption and the hypocrisy? The trust me bro phrase. That's a phenomenal way of putting this. Justin Trudeau is saying, hey, I know the names. I know the names. No action has been taken. We can't tell you to what extent the seriousness is, and we certainly can't tell you the names, but I know the names. And we want all party leaders to also know the names so that they can't talk about it the way that I can't talk about it. That is insane. That's absurd. And the fact that this is being covered in India just goes to show how corrupt our news here in Canada really is.
But there is evidence against him. And you wouldn't believe the source. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, the head of Sikhs for Justice, a banned Khalistani terrorist group. Pannu went on Canadian television and he made a damning revelation. He said he's been talking to Trudeau's office for nearly 3 years. Listen to this.
Sikhs for Justice have been communicating with the Prime Minister's office for the last 2 to 3 years, detailing all the spy network.
How about that? Pannu just admitted a direct link between himself and Trudeau, between a banned terrorist group and the Prime Minister of Canada. Is this not supporting Khalistani separatism? Or is this also a freedom of expression issue? And speaking of Trudeau's Khalistani friends, Jagmeet Singh is also facing heat. He leads Canada's New Democratic Party. On Tuesday, he held a press conference.
He's freaking banned in India.
On Indian diplomats, only to be laughed off by reporters. Take a look at this.
We all need to be unified as Canadian leaders. All of us have to be united in denouncing Modi and making sure we protect Canadians and put their safety first and foremost. Thank you.
Saying whether or not you have personal preference. What do you make of India naming you personally? That assumption.
Walks out of his own press conference.
He's gone.
Also, that's still not how it works.
Yeah. We can't just go online.
This timing may look pretty bad because Trudeau is already facing a party rebellion. He leads the Liberal Party. They have lost key by-elections in Canada, so some party leaders want a change in leadership. Reports say 20 members of parliament are on board. They have signed a letter asking Justin Trudeau to step aside to get in new blood. And now the Canadian media is on his...
Imagine having to go to India News to figure out the truth of what the hell is going on in Canada. This is how insane this is. And I know that there's some people out there that are saying, well, it's not real. You can't trust the source or else it would be here in Canada. Dude, these people got to wake up, man. Like, this is all the truth. Everything we've seen in this video are real things by the actual politicians that they have said. Like, this is insane that you have the largest democracy in the world, India, constantly, and this is one channel, by the way. This is one channel and one video. Every mainstream media channel in India has had non-stop videos about Justin Trudeau and just bashing him. I don't know if that's considered foreign interference. I think that that's considered picking a battle against India and getting your butt whooped. I'm not really sure what the definition would be of the Canadian government, but nonetheless, you got everybody in India who's like, we don't like Justin, we don't like Canada because of what he's doing, or at least we don't like the Canadian government. And it's not just the mainstream media in India. It's also, I don't unfortunately have any clips pulled up, but there's also like the YouTubers, right? The commentators in India. And I did tune into a live stream. I can't remember for the life of me the name of the live stream, but it had like 7,000 viewers. They were out in India, and their entire live stream was dedicated to talking smack about Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh. Like, this is crazy. Trudeau, what have you done? What have you done, dude? This is nuts. You gotta fix it, or at least you can't fix it. So call an election, get Pierre in, and we gotta fix the relations between Canada and China. Because I'll be honest, when I turn YouTube on and the algorithm is spitting out India news and it's about Justin Trudeau, of course I'm going to click on it. But at the same time, what? We should be prioritizing Canadian stuff, not from India. Like, it's funny, don't get me wrong. And I do watch it, and we just covered it in this video. But nonetheless, I mean, we shouldn't have other massive countries or other countries in general making mass amounts of content talking smack about our government because our government has talked smack about them. We should just not do that. I don't think that Canada and Justin Trudeau should be talking all this smack publicly about India, but that's my own personal opinion. And again, I would love to know yours. This is the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now.